How can you leverage that during periods of time when you're not quite as busy? Or how can you leverage it in ways to derive more revenue and more engagement through experiences that have almost nothing to do with serving food, serving coffee, or serving alcohol, and yet find a way to monetize that?
Welcome to The Profitable Table, fed by Woolco Foods, a podcast at the nexus of hospitality, business, culture, and the mind. Now here's your host, Woolco Foods CEO, Steven Toboroff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Profitable Table, fed by Woolco Foods. I am your host, Steven Toboroff. And something that I've been observing and reading about and thinking about, and it's a trend that I think is going to continue for quite some time and become more pronounced over time, is the fact that we really are entering a space now where people really appreciate live events, live community, being together to do things. I mean, I was just thinking of a very basic example the other day, which was I was watching the Knicks game, and in addition to the Knicks obviously playing at the Garden and being on television, but they set up screens, big screens outside for everybody to gather and just watch the game together outside. Now, realistically, if you want to watch the game, you could watch it at home on television, you could go to a bar, but there's something about being around lots of other people, sharing an experience, what have you, that people really enjoy, and I think that's going to continue. But more importantly, for purposes of this podcast, I believe it creates real opportunities for people in the hospitality space, whether that be restaurateurs, bars, hotels, what have you, to really utilize this trend in a very creative and expansive way to help generate additional revenue as well as strengthen your brand and do a lot of other positive things. So that's what I want to get into today. And the first thing, just to sort of frame it up and put it in context, is that in many ways, we are exiting a phase in part and entering a phase in part where there are a lot of systems in place professionally that would tend to keep people more isolated. You know, obviously during COVID and even post-COVID, but certainly beginning with COVID, this notion of working be home became accepted. In many instances, it became ubiquitous, and it became a part of work culture. Now, it's absolutely the case that companies, by and large, all of them, or most of them, certainly the vast majority, have reached the conclusion that this work from home has a multitude of defects that are adversely impacting their business. But nonetheless, it was something that came into being. It's something that people got used to, and it's something that they liked. Online apps for everything, whether it's gambling, whether it's, you can imagine the various apps that are out there that people can engage with, that they can do in an isolated manner, that are very stimulating, even if they're negative, even if they're destructive, you know, it's available. Our cell phones are becoming more and more engaging and enticing, and technology as well, if they ever get this whole metaverse thing figured out. But even if they don't, there's tools and there's stimuli available on our cell phone that makes it more compelling to do that. We talk about, on this podcast we have in the past, and there's much discussion going on about AI, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, as it continues to be adopted and as it continues to evolve as a technology, is going to take over more and more of the tasks that people would do collaboratively together, again, in a workplace setting, and perhaps even in an academic setting. So that technological innovation has within it the potentiality of leading to less human-to-human contact. And these are all factors that are in play that, for economic reasons and other reasons, are working to keep people, or would work once they're reach fruition, to keep people apart. But the mere fact that these dynamics are in play largely for economic purposes, business purposes and economic purposes, does not mean that they're going to be able to undermine the primal and essential human desire of connectivity and being together. And so just as we saw with people working from home after COVID, And we also saw people, if they were at home and they'd spent all day working, that they were going out to eat. They might go out to eat earlier, but it led to more socializing than what was traditionally happening, where people would socialize. Maybe they'd get together at lunch and then they'd stay home and watch something on Netflix. But the point that I'm making is that even within the context of COVID and working from home, it did lead for people to find new ways to connect with one another. And so we understand that connecting with people and live experiential events are elemental to our nature. And we're seeing a tremendous amount of evidence of that right now. Travel is bigger and better than it's ever been. The amount of Americans going to Europe is insane. You walk around New York City, you see the tourists. Travel is not going to be disintermediated, at least not for the near future, and maybe never, because there's so many aspects of travel that even if you could put on the most incredible VR machine and immerse yourself in something, there still would be something lacking. So we see humans yearning for these live experiences and this connectivity through the mass scale increase in travel, which is back in a huge way. Live events, whether that be concerts, sporting events, even though there's so many different ways to amuse ourselves at home and so many things that can be brought to us from home, including, you put together a really nice system in your house, you get a great experience. People love going to the game and that whole experience. Same thing with concerts. Festivals are huge. They keep adding more and more of them. People love to go to multi-day festivals and restaurants. And since this is a podcast about the hospitality space, we need to focus on that, hospitality, because restaurants are much more than food. When people go out to eat, whether it's on a date, whether it's to celebrate a graduation, whether it's to meet with friends, whether it's to have a business discussion, there's an immense amount of stimuli being derived from that experience. There's an immense amount going on teleologically with that experience that has nothing to do with eating food. It's the human-to-human contact. It's the live experience. It's whatever you want. So restaurants and hospitality businesses in general, bars, hotels, but for purposes of just not having to make that caveat every time I mention it, we're just going to use restaurants as a catch-all for this. Restaurants are already wonderfully positioned in this space, which is why they've done so well post-COVID. It's always a challenging business and there's costs and all these other factors that go into it. But the desire for people to be together and go to a restaurant, that has not been in any way disintermediated. And in fact, it's more popular than ever. So the question then is, okay, if we agree that the desire for human interaction and human contact is going to become more and more pronounced over time, particularly as business and commerce trends may seek to isolate us, how can people in the restaurant business, in the hospitality space, capitalize on that opportunity beyond what they're already doing? Okay. So the first thing I want to emphasize is that phrase, beyond what you're already doing. If you have a business that's doing a booming brunch business where you've got people waiting and they can't get in, and you do a great dinner business, you do a great after theater business, you have a phenomenal lunch business, whatever's going on with your business right now that's operating successfully and doing exceptionally well, don't touch it, just leave it, because it's already fulfilling the purpose of the trend, if you will, that I'm exploring in this podcast. But the question is, how can restaurants, coffee shops, bars leverage their space, leverage their position within this live experience part of our economy? How can you leverage that during periods of time when you're not quite as busy? Or how can you leverage it in ways to derive more revenue and more engagement through experiences that have almost nothing to do with serving food, serving coffee, or serving alcohol, and yet find a way to monetize that? And that's what we're going to discuss. So the first question is, you have to do an assessment of your business. What type of space do you have? Is it a fine dining restaurant? Is it a dive bar? Is it a hotel? Is it a cool, laid-back coffee shop? Is it a tavern? You need to first really understand what your brand is, what your space is, and all thoughts regarding how you can leverage it to capitalize on further live experience has to be contextualized within your We'll call it a brand, but what type of space you have, because trying to use a fine French dining space to achieve what could be achieved with a dive bar will fail, and vice versa. So first, what is your brand, and will it even lend itself to a live event? So let me give an example of something that beautifully lends itself to a live event. We have a phenomenal customer that has a magnificent beer garden in Hoboken, beautiful space. They leverage it through music, through trivia night, through family night, whatever. The space is absolutely magnificent, and it lends itself to those types of experiences. A 5-star Vietnamese restaurant may not lend itself to a trivia night, but it might lend itself to a cultural academic night where a scholar from the Asia Society would come and give a lecture on something related to Vietnamese history or culture. Okay? That's kind of what I'm talking about when I say really understand your brand and really understand what it can be used for as a live event. So I've just run through some of them, but it may make sense to explore this in a little bit of a context with your customers, right? And it is part of your overall brand. If you have a bar and customers go to your bar because they love watching sports, well, one event you could do, I don't know if people are aware of this, but sports card trading is really popular. And so let's say your bar is traditionally not busy on a Saturday afternoon when there's no sporting events. You could host a trading card event, which is related to sports. People who collect baseball cards, football cards, hockey cards, whatever, they could come, they could drink, they could engage, they could talk. What are you doing that? You're leveraging your brand and your space to engage in a different live event that can generate revenue and brand awareness for your business. Another example, instead of a Vietnamese restaurant, let's say it's a high-end Italian restaurant. You know that people associate your business with great Italian food and authentic Italian cuisine. Let's say you really don't do much of a brunch business. Why not advertise to your local community, to your regulars, to people on social media that you're going to have a reservation event only, or a professor who's an expert on the writings of Machiavelli, Niccolo Machiavelli, is going to come and give a talk, and you're going to have a 3-course meal with it. What are you doing there? You're taking your space, which you've already paid the fixed costs on, rent, insurance, electricity, and you're trying to generate additional revenue without adding any fixed costs, because remember, they're already built in, and enhance engagement with your brand. So I could go through a lot of different ideas, and maybe what would be fun would be for people, I give my email address and my Instagram handle at the end of this. I always get phenomenal feedback, and people can send me stuff that they think are great ideas, and maybe I'll share it on our website or post it to our Instagram account. But the point being that if you own a restaurant or a coffee shop or a hotel or a bar, and you can clearly identify what your brand is, what you do, what you are known for, if you can identify areas where you're not really generating revenue because your business model doesn't lend itself to generate revenue during a particular time, and you can find ways to convert your space into a live event, leveraging your brand, but getting people in the door in a way that they're going to be excited and engaged through some add-on, if you will, making it a live event, I think it's a great thing for your business. So if you make the decision to do this, which I would encourage people to do, I mean, I think the sports card event is a no-brainer. There's a baseball card shop on Bleecker Street. I think it's called Bleecker Street Trading Cards. Any sports bar in that area could do this strategy and probably generate a lot of revenue. People love going to lectures. You could have something like a trivia night, which is very commonly done. You could have an Oscar watch party. We've discussed that. You can have social events, right? But understand your brand, understand your customers. Let's say you make the decision, how are you going to get this out there? There's 3 main ways you're going to do this. 1, you're going to let your existing customers know. Create a very beautiful, attractive point of sale. It could be a card. It could be a little piece of paper. When people are leaving, just share it with them. If you, let's say you have a phenomenal brunch crowd, but you're dead on Sunday night, and you're going to have a Sunday night Oscar watch party. Make sure every single customer that goes in your door for brunch for the 3 weeks before it is aware you're going to do that. Advertise it on social media. Because remember, the people who love going to your restaurants have a lot of positive associations with it beyond just the meal. And so the people who come to your place for brunch and love the mimosas, they have other associations with your business, or people who come for Friday night after work dinner and drinks, whatever the sort of space where you're really killing it is. People who come and enjoy your business within that context, they have other associations with you that go beyond that one experience. And that's what you're trying to tap into. So, one, communicate it to all your regulars in a physical form a few weeks before the event occurs. 2, digitally, promote it consistently on your social media. Whatever you use, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, mention it. Hey, in 3 weeks, we're having Professor X come and talk about the writings of Dostoevsky at our coffee house. Those who love Dostoevsky, come. And then 3, tell your friends. One of the best ways and most important ways for restaurants to succeed, flourish, and continue is through referrals. And what you will find is there are a lot of people who love your restaurant, but they never think to refer it to somebody. Or they would refer it, but they don't think that the people in their lives and their ecosystem would be the type of people that would like your cuisine, your cocktails, whatever. But now you start mentioning a professor who's going to come and talk about Dostoevsky. Now you have a situation where there's going to be a trivia night centered around the television show Walking Dead. Now you center it around an Oscar party. Now you center it around instead of sports car trading, find another hobby that people are into. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are literally countless ones. Well, now all of a sudden you've created an avenue where people can go to their friend and say, hey, John, I go to this phenomenal bar every Thursday night after work. They love it. They're near NYU. They're having a professor come talk about Dostoevsky. I know you love Dostoevsky. You love Crime and Punishment and the Brothers Karamazov. They're having this event Thursday night. Well, now you've created another way for people to advertise your business, get people in your door, and experience your restaurant. So that's the first step in terms of once you've made the decision to do it. The second thing, which got to be done commensurate with this, because again, you don't want to do this during times when you're already killing it from a business perspective. So you don't want to add anything. If you're sold out for every dinner, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, don't use those times for this. You have a great brunch business, you have a great after work business, whatever it is, don't touch those times. Identify times and make sure it's a decent chunk of time where you're consistently underutilized, but you have staff there and you'd like to get more people involved. Or times where you're underutilized, but remember this, when you're paying rent, when you're paying insurance, and I could go through a whole bunch of things, those fixed costs are baked into your business model. And let's assume you're profitable. That means that any additional revenue you can get that you're not currently getting in the normal course of your business is even that much more profitable because you can almost intellectually understand that you don't have to put in those fixed costs other than labor, right? So really try to identify those times when you're underutilized and craft ideas to come up with the time frame in mind. So if you're really underutilized Saturday mornings, maybe it's not the best idea to focus on something that's got a massive high meal, high alcoholic type vibe in it. Maybe it does. Maybe you're near Central Park and you want to host a light breakfast at 10 o'clock for people who are running in a race or people who are going for their morning runs and get a lecture from a sports physiologist or someone who's a former elite runner. But you get my point. Identify times that you're underutilized and utilize those times in a manner that's appropriate to those times, okay? Make logical choices. You don't, to the extent that you can grab low-hanging fruit, so I'll give another idea. Those restaurants that are in the theater district do a great job before a show, after a show, whatever. Possibly on a Monday, just imagine if a restaurant in the theater district had on a Monday an event where a Broadway actor or a former Broadway writer or something along Broadway was available on a Monday night after work. Because there's a lot of people who work in that area, not to mention that it's a tourist area. So now all of a sudden when the lights are off on Broadway on Monday and many of these places are closed, If they thought creatively and identified ways to really attract people, they would accomplish a lot of things. One, they'd make money that night. Two, they would introduce people to their business, to their brand on a very competitive sort of context. Restaurant Row is very competitive, right? And they would be able to leverage that to get greater engagement with their brand, make money when they're not making money, and perhaps establish a whole new tradition for their business that could make money into the future. But the point being, you want to be low-hanging fruit. If you're on Restaurant Row, in my opinion, it would make more sense to try to leverage something with Broadway and theater than do something where you're going to talk about a trivia night that's centered around sports. You get the point. It's obvious, but I just wanted to make sure that I do it. And then finally, you can do this in a way where people get value for themselves and bring value to your business by buying things. And one of the ways to do this is partner up with people that also have an interest. For example, you can have a book signing in your restaurant. You can have somebody do a lecture in your restaurant. You can have an artist do an art showing in your restaurant. So what I'm saying is if you can create a connection with a great author who happens to love your restaurant, and you say to them, look, I know you have this book out, big fan of yours, would love to create a whole theme night around this. It's all on me. I'm going to promote it. I'm going to let my regulars know about it. My only ask of you is that you come here, you have some books that will sell, you'll sell and you'll sign, you'll talk for 15 to 20 minutes. This is just one example of an author, but you could find that across the spectrum of activities that people are interested in. So these are ways for you to monetize events by leveraging relationships and partnerships with things that people are already interested in. Another thing that you could do, which is in a similar vein to that, is community events. Let's say that there's going to be an important community event discussing whether a park should be built or not built, or a new condo should be built or not built, or anything that affects the community, right? You can have a night around that, hey, there's a lot of talk about what's going to happen with XYZ in this neighborhood. We're having an invitation only where two of the primary participants in this, maybe it's a city council member, maybe it's a community activist, maybe it's an architect, whomever, they're going to come and speak. Again, you're leveraging your space for a live event that you can monetize and create greater engagement with your brand. And then finally, you can always ask your guests, if you have great regulars that you have a great relationship with, you can go to them and say, hey, listen, if I were want to host something here or do something fun with this space that was available to everybody, what do you think would be good? I know you're always here every Sunday for our bottomless brunch. What would we have to do to get you in here on a Tuesday night beyond our food? Let your guests give you some ideas. You'll be shocked what you learn, and it'll be phenomenal. To sort of put a bow on this, the objective in this endeavor, in addition to generating more revenue, and in addition to generating greater awareness of your brand and enhancing your brand, the objective is to build community and to build on the desire for human connection, leveraging your business in underutilized ways and in a creative manner. And again, we've emphasized the live experience first, emphasize that in your marketing, take lots of pictures of this event, post it on social media when it's done, get videos and testimonials so that people will start saying, hey, they have the best would be, holy cow, every Thursday is lecture night at Joe's restaurant and he has the best professors and people have the best time and they absolutely love it. Or every Tuesday's trading card night at Ryan's Sports Bar, and look at these videos and people having fun. Really create a story around this through social media, through pictures and videos, so people understand that this live experience is what they're after, not so much of, just harping on the same thing of pictures of your food, okay? Remember, it's called the hospitality business for a reason. This is an opportunity, as you engage in this, to refocus on creating a welcoming environment, having a staff that's welcoming, having a space where people feel comfortable, having an environment where people want to come again and again and again because how they feel when they go there. People will go somewhere, have a great meal, love it, and when they feel like eating chicken parmesan again, they might think of you. But people who love a space, love the staff, love the vibe, love the environment, they want to spend as much time as they can when they're out of their house, and that's ultimately what you want to do. Be attentive to trends and ideas and what people are saying. because you'll never know what idea might come your way. You'll never know what trend might come into existence that you're aware of before anyone else is, and you can leverage it with a live event in your business. Be attentive, be creative, look around, see what's happening. But ultimately, all of this is a way to try to capitalize on the need that people have to be together, to capitalize on the fact that you, unlike most other businesses, are 95% there, because eating in a restaurant is inherently a live event, experiential event, obviously. And then the question is, how can you creatively build on the live event part, not the cuisine part so much, not the cocktail part so much. Yes, you're going to sell those things because that's what this is about in large part, to generate additional revenue. But how can you leverage and capitalize on the interaction part, the humanity part, the community part, to find new and innovative ways to get people into your establishment and engaging with you beyond simply coming and enjoying what they're traditionally going to your space to do? So I hope that this content was enjoyable and valuable. If it was, it would really mean a lot to me if you would like the podcast, leave a comment. Certainly if you feel it's valuable content and you know other people that would enjoy it, would love it if you would recommend it to them. And then, of course, as always, I love hearing from people. You can email me at Steven, Steven, at woolcofoods.com, or you can DM me at Woolco Foods. That's our Instagram. Would love to hear some ideas that you come up with. Would love to hear your thoughts on this concept in general. And if you agree with it and you think it's interesting, would love to hear some creative ideas on how you're going to use your space, or how you would suggest people to use their space, rather, to achieve this objective. So really enjoyed this podcast. Appreciate everyone for listening. And I just want everybody to have an awesome day.
Thank you for listening to The Profitable Table, fed by Woolco Foods. Please be sure to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. And to learn more about Woolco Foods or Steven Toboroff, please visit us at woolcofoods.net.